Good evening. Sir Keir Starmer is too afraid of the Muslim vote to stand up to the Islamist Iranians. That's President Trump's view. He told The Sun earlier on, Britain is not such a recognisable country. I mean, you look at what happened over the last period of time and it's very different. It's not going to matter, but Starmer should have helped. He should have. I mean, France has been great. They've all been great. The UK has been much different from the others. You've seen the Secretary-General of NATO, the great things he said, Mark Rutte, he's great. But no, they've all been pretty much great, other than we think Keir. Keir was just very different. Stop people from coming in from foreign lands who hate you, Trump went on, and asked if Starmer was trying to court Muslim voters. Trump said that could be the case. And then President Trump, of course, got stuck right in at a press conference a few hours ago, blasting Starmer over Chagos.
By the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. That island that you read about, the lease, okay, he made it for whatever reason, he made a lease of the island. Somebody came and took it away from him. And it's taken 3-4 days for us to work out where we can land there. It would have been much more convenient landing there as opposed to flying many extra hours. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Well, there is a reason that Starmer keeps saying stuff like this.
We were not involved in the initial strikes on Iran, and we will not join offensive action now. The United Kingdom played no role in these strikes. We were not involved in the initial strikes on Iran.
And he just can't help himself. He's done it again tonight.
Emmanuel, Friedrich, really good to hear from you.
I think we are all concerned about what could happen within the next couple of hours or days.
We weren't involved, as we've made clear.
Well, we're not involved. We're not involved. So talking to, of course, the German and French leaders there. And again, at what we believe, reportedly, was an iftar event in Parliament tonight.
But on Iran, I want to make clear the UK was not involved in the offensive strikes of the US and Israel. And that remains the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's relentless, isn't it? That's his big line, that we were not involved. And I think it's because he wants to appease people like this.
Raise the voice of Palestine! Allahu Akbar!
Look, the Green Party is currently very much on the march. New polling today revealed that the Greens are now 5 points ahead of Labour and only 2 behind Reform. Remarkable, isn't it? And Starmer knows that the Greens will, as he's accused them of doing in Gorton and Denton, try to manipulate the Muslim vote.
And what's going to make Ramadan even better is if we can get Hannah Spencer elected on the 26th of February. So let's make that happen and let's have a blessed Ramadan.
So the last thing he needs is for them to be able to say that he helped slot the Ayatollah. Let's be honest. I'm surprised that he hasn't gone the whole hog and attended a vigil for the great martyr himself. Maybe Keir could win a few votes back, maybe, by dressing like the Ayatollah. Ayatollah Keir Maney. There you go. I mean, in order to keep elements of the certain Muslim vote happy, Keir Starmer has been willing to play no role in the killing of the world's worst jihadi terrorist and to lose face with our greatest ally. Remarkable, really, isn't it? Let's get thoughts on my panel this evening. We are joined by writer and broadcaster Emma Trimble. We've also got GB News contributor Will Kingston and broadcaster and journalist Jonathan Liss. So, yeah, Will, I mean, look, this is the accusation. Anyway, when we see Keir Starmer repeatedly trotting out the lines, I mean, I've played it about 5 or 6 different occasions there. We had no role. We were not involved in the killing. What do you think he's trying to do there?
Patrick, it's not just this. Everything that this Labor government does needs to be viewed through the prism of the Muslim vote. They courted it because multiculturalism is the new religion of the left, and they are desperately trying to cling on to it because, as you said, they are electorally finished if they can't manage to hold on to it, because they're sure as heck not going to win back the working class vote. But here's the thing. The British people are sick of it. They are sick of British interests being put second to minority interests. And more than that, they are sick of British customs and values being chipped away at day in and day out, whether it be at the local park where you have to put a leash on your dog, whether it be paying homage constantly to religious festivals and, well, to Muslim festivals, less so to Christian festivals, or whether it be to any other time where football games, any other time where it feels like the British culture is being seconded to an Islamic and minority interest. It's wrong.
Well, we can see the polling. Look, we know what's going on with the Greens at the moment. It's very little seems to be about anything environmental. It just seems to be much more about Gaza, about Palestine, and about what we saw, those tried and tested tactics that we saw in the Gorton and Denton by-election of deliberately targeting mosques. And by the way, it's not just me saying this, and people think, oh, Patrick, you're on the right and you're saying it. The Labour Party's line after Gorton and Denton was that the Green Party were trying to manipulate the Muslim vote. That's what the Labour Party are themselves saying. So I do wonder whether Starmer's response to what we're seeing with the Ayatollah is a part of that here.
The Green Party have shown that it works. And I think all you have to do is look at what lies beneath some of the victories of some of the senior Labour figures, including people like Wes Streeting, whose majority was dramatically cut by an independent pro-Gaza candidate. This is the future of British politics. The Muslim vote is going to play a really important role in our political landscape. It's here to stay, really. And I think what this just shows the unbelievable naivety of Keir Starmer here is that repeatedly, whether this is to flatter the Muslim vote or perhaps to say, please, Iran, don't attack any British interests, don't attack our RAF bases, for example, if that's his intention, it just shows his complete naivety, because Iran doesn't care whether we are practically allied with America or not. They're at the heart of their state is a theology that is apocalyptic. They are as a nation, almost the equivalent of a suicide bomber. They would be willing to take themselves out if it took out their enemies. So Keir Starmer's whole approach is completely naive and completely misled. And it's the Labour Party are not going to be able to compete with the Greens on this, or with the Independents.
Well, what do you think, Jonathan? What do you make of Keir Starmer's repeated comments there? Do you think that, as he's been accused of doing, that is an attempt to try to appease the Muslim vote, I suppose?
Well, I don't think that Muslim voters are in opposition to British voters, because Muslim voters are also British. And Will, if you substituted the word Jewish for Muslim in your diatribe, which I did do you respect to listening to, you'd be accused of being an anti-Semite. So make of that what you will. There's nothing wrong with taking Muslim voters into account, their views into account, going to iftars, celebrating Muslim festivals. If they were the only people that the government was doing that for, then you'd say that was strange. But they're not. They are part of the fabric of this society. And by the way, the fundamental point is that it's not just Muslims who hate this war. It's not just Muslims that hate endless campaigns of bombing Middle Eastern countries with overwhelming Muslim populations, or standing by while entire populations are sort of bombed off the face of the earth, okay? So, again, I come back to the point that a majority of British people disagree with this. Starmer is actually on their side. He's speaking for them more than you are speaking for them at the moment. And there's another thing, Patrick, which is called learning lessons from the past. Even if you think that taking out the Ayatollah is a good thing, and by the way, I have no sympathy for the Iranian regime whatsoever. If I'm pro-Ayatollah, then so are the majority of the British population, which I don't think you would say, then if it's the case that you could say that was a good thing, it's also possible to look at what happened in 2003, where people went guns blazing. We went guns blazing into Iraq. We thought that if you just decapitate the regime, somehow everything's going to be better. What happened? Iraq became a complete basket case. What happens when you take out a regime is you have a power vacuum. And Donald Trump has admitted that most of the candidates have been killed. What happens? And then he's going to start arming rival groups. What could possibly go wrong? There's absolutely no plan for this, and Keir Starmer is representing those fears.
Okay. Two responses. Number one, if I was called an anti-Semite, just like if I was called an Islamophobe, I couldn't care less. We're so far past the point in this country of this sort of silly name-calling. People at home don't care anymore, but people on the left throwing out words like anti-Semite or Islamophobe to try and shut down debate.
Not trying to shut it down,
We're
trying to put out what it is.
Number two, The term, they are part of the fabric of British society, implies that they are integrated into British society. They're sewn into the fabric of the society. Too many Muslims are not integrated into this country. Not all of them, by any means, but too many are not. Too many live by the customs and routines and rituals of either the countries they have come from or from their religion, which is not compatible with this country. That is the concerns that people at home have, and that is the concerns that I have here.
Emma, your views on Keir Starmer's reaction? Because for me, I thought, look, initially, he's Mr. International Law, or at least claims to be, although it looks like Lord Herbert might have got a couple of things wrong when it comes to Chagos. But anyway, there we go. Initially, I thought, look, OK, I get it. It's a fast-moving situation. He doesn't know necessarily exactly how this is going to pan out in the coming hours. I can get why you wanted to maybe say, well, we didn't play an active role in the bombing of the Ayatollah. But it's the repetition of that line now. That is clearly, they have decided from a Labour comms perspective, this is the line they need to make sure every single person in Britain knows. And I suppose it's this thing, isn't it? Is it because people feel, the general British public, which of course includes the Muslim community, feel as though that they are just against this war? Or is it, do you think, that he's looking at the polling, where the Greens are at the moment, and thinking, I need every vote I can get here?
I think I imagine it probably has a large part to do with the increasing importance of the Muslim vote. I think it's also because we actually weren't involved initially. It seems as if we weren't really even consulted about this, which I think says something about the so-called special relationship and how Keir Starmer has bungled that. But I think he's probably hedging his bets because this could go horribly wrong, right? So I think probably from the perspective of the United States and Israel, this is their one chance, their little slither of chance to step in. And remember, this is a regime that has killed tens of thousands of its own people who have been trying to overthrow the regime. That this is potentially the moment where America and Israel can step in. And we've seen in other countries that the Iranians in exile have been coming and laying flowers outside of the Israeli embassy. So I think that this from the perspective of America, may have been the slither of hope, but from the perspective of Keir Starmer, he's probably thinking this could damage me politically, and also if this goes horribly, horribly wrong, I don't want to be involved. But it's probably primarily because he loves international law.
One of the main things that I can't understand about Keir Starmer's reaction to this so far is that we did a report here at GB News earlier today, other news outlets did it as well, which appears to indicate chatter from the IRGC based here in Britain, saying that they are considering launching attacks here, all of this stuff. And Starmer is not prescribing the IRGC as a terrorist organisation. Now, I am of the view that if they are prescribing Palestine action, it is totally nonsensical to not prescribe the IRGC. So why is he so weak on that? Because that wouldn't be a case of, pandering to the Muslim vote or otherwise or whatever. I mean, that is, I think, by most people's definition, a fully fledged terrorist organisation. And that seems to just be a weakness, I think, isn't it, Jonathan?
Well, I mean, look, you saw that the Palestine action prescription was thrown out by the Supreme Court. Prescribing things is not necessarily the answer. And also, there are all kinds of things that go with prescribing organisations, that it sort of bans people from even expressing any support for a group. I happen to think that's wrong in all cases, by the way. I don't think I'm more of a free speech absolutist than some people on this panel, in that I don't think it should be a crime to hold up a piece of cloth, a flag.
By that, do you mean the ISIS flag?
I don't think it should be illegal to hold up a piece of cloth, Patrick.
The ISIS
I think it's morally reprehensible. I don't think it should be a crime where you can go to jail. Sorry. I have a very high bar for
that one of the people that was in a documentary called The Jihadi Next Door, who unfurled an ISIS flag in Regent's Park, was called Koran, but he then went on to slaughter people on the Borough Market attack. So sometimes
I think that if you are doing that thing, then there might be questions asked. I don't think it should be a crime to do that. It should be a crime to kill people, Patrick, and to call for killing people. That should be a crime. Anyway, so
Can I just say, sorry, on Palestine action, I mean, that maybe is less of a cut and dry case than the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. I mean, this is really very straightforward. I mean, as much as Hamas. So There isn't any reason why they wouldn't be prescribed. Iran have been planning terror attacks on British soil. 20 terror attacks, I think it was, in the last year. So this is.
I would have no basic objection to prescribing the IRGC. Like if you're prescribing ISIS and Hamas, I don't see that there's a problem with that personally. All I'm saying is that there are questions that we should be asking about the scale of the law in prescribing things and about expressing support for organisations, which I don't think in general should be a crime.
All right, well, there we go. By the way, I will just say that you know, it's absolutely not fair to say that every single Muslim in Britain is pro-Ayatollah, right? I mean, there's plenty of them that I know who live very close to where I live who are dead against the Ayatollah. In fact, they were quite annoyed that we let so many of the Ayatollah supporters into Britain because they came to Britain to get away from them. So there we go. But anyway, right, look.